Hi everyone, welcome back to Yogahound, where we talk about all things yoga and yogi related. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 mistakes people make in plank and how to fix them. As you may note, I have a very special guest with me here today. This is Sonia. She's the official mascot of Yogahound and she will be showing up here and there in all of my videos. So say hello to Sonia and she will be helping me out today. Alright, so let's get started. First of all, what is plank and why do we want to do a plank pose? Plank is a really great exercise that helps you build strength in your abdomen, it helps you build strength in your shoulders, and it also works your legs. So really, it's like a whole full body exercise that's very beneficial. Also, it uses what's called isometric contraction in order to strengthen your muscles. This means that your muscles are not extending or contracting, but they are building strength, they are active. So basically that means that the length of your muscles does not change, but the strength is still being built. Plank is a really great exercise that helps you build strength in your entire body, but it's still quite gentle. Isometric contraction exercises, including plank, are super beneficial for people who are recovering from injuries or are maybe not as physically fit as they would like to be. In yoga, plank pose is used in different types of scenarios. As we all know, we do use plank when we do the chaturanga in our sun salutations. We also do different plank variations. So we may have high plank, low plank, we might have a side plank, we may have different kinds of planks, but it all really just works your muscles in more or less the same way. So we're going to jump right into it and we're going to talk about the top 5 mistakes people make in plank and how we're going to fix them. Alright, so first of all, let me get into my plank pose. So I will show you with the low plank, but with the high plank it'll be the same kind of common issues that people will face. The first common mistake people make is really pinching or bringing their shoulders forward and kind of almost crowding their neck and shoulder area. This is not the best thing to do because it puts a lot of strain on your neck, it puts a lot of strain on your shoulders, and it can create some impingement here. So what you want to do in order to avoid that is really think about shrugging your shoulders away from the ears, and you want to feel some space in between your shoulder blades. So they are coming in together to kind of hug, but they're not fully together in the back because otherwise you would be really bringing your chest too low to the floor. So you want to feel a little bit of space in your shoulder blades. You want to feel nice and strong and balanced in the shoulders in order to support your weight there. So remember, plank, shoulders away from the ears. All right. The number 2 mistake that I see people make with plank all the time, really all the time, is dipping their hips down way too low. So it looks like something like this. So we're here in plank and the hips are coming down too low to the ground. Now this is not the best situation because it really puts a lot of strain on your lumbar. So it puts a lot of strain on your lower back, impinging your vertebrae there. So you really want to make sure you're protecting your lower back. This also indicates that you don't have enough engagement in your abdominal muscles. So what you want to do is think about bringing your hips to be in line with your shoulders. And this also means engaging your core. You can even look down to make sure that your hips are in line with your shoulders. If this is too much and you can't really sustain that, please do feel free to put your knees down onto the ground to give yourself a little bit of assistance, but just do make sure that your core is engaged and your hips are not dipping down too low. The number 3 most common mistake that I see my students make all the time, whether they're in the gym or at the yoga studio, is the opposite of what we just talked about. So instead of dipping their hips down too low, they put their hips up too high. And I'm sure you guys have seen this. This is probably the most common thing people do. So it looks a little something like this. I'm exaggerating a bit here, but essentially you'll see people with their hips up higher than their shoulders. Now this again takes some pressure off their core, making it a little bit easier on their abdomen. However, it puts more weight onto your shoulders because your weight is no longer evenly distributed. So what you want to do again, as with number 2, you want to engage the core, and you can even look down and make sure that you're bringing the hips down to shoulder level so that you're all nice in the same line. I would highly recommend also using a mirror in the gym or in the yoga studio to check out your form. You're not being superficial by looking in the mirror when you're doing plank to ensure that you have proper form. You're actually doing yourself a really big favor because you're making sure that all of your body is aligned, your muscles are working in the way that they should be. So don't be shy, do check yourself out in that mirror to make sure your form is good. Moving on to most common mistake number 4. So the most common mistake number 4 has to do with the legs not being engaged enough. Now you may find this somewhat surprising because when you think of plank, you probably think mostly of working your core, which is not incorrect. However, in plank pose, you also want to make sure that your legs are really engaged. With mistake number 4, you might see something that looks a little bit like this. Now, you can have your knees on the ground, and that's completely acceptable, especially if you're just starting off on building your plank and your core strength. This is totally fine as long as the rest of your form is good. But even in here, you want to make sure that your feet are staying active, okay? So they're engaged, and it's like you're pressing them against an imaginary wall. If you're doing full plank with your legs straight, you want to again make sure that your legs are not just hanging out. You want to make sure that you're shining the backs of your knees up towards the ceiling and you're feeling that engagement in your quads and you're pressing your feet against an imaginary wall. This will also help to distribute the weight more evenly throughout your body, which will engage the rest of your muscles, not just the core, and it will also help make sure that you're preventing injury by putting too much strain on certain parts of your body. So you're not dumping into your shoulders, you're not dumping into your lower back, you're really evenly distributing the weight across all of your muscle. Mistake number 5, last one, we made it. This one is a little less obvious than you may think, and it has to do with mindset. Now, plank, if you've done it, you know it's actually quite a hard exercise because holding plank for a prolonged period of time can be quite challenging. And so, because it is challenging, your mind tends to wander, and when you start to feel a little bit uncomfortable, your first instinct is to get out of the pose. But you have to kind of change your mindset. Find a focal point, maybe chant a mantra, and remember that you have to kind of get used to being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's part of the yoga philosophy too. So if you're in plank, and maybe you've been holding it for a little while, and you're kind of over it, like things are hurting, but really maybe you've set a goal for yourself. So you want to hold plank for a whole minute. Find something to focus your mind on, whether it be a spot on the floor, a thought, a mantra, maybe you're chanting Om the whole way. You really want to make sure that you're keeping your mind focused, and that will help you sustain the pose for longer periods of time. Once you have mastered the plank pose, you can really do so many different things with it. You can lift up a leg, you can lift up an arm, you can lift up opposite leg and arm. You can do high plank, low plank, side plank. There's no limit to the variations that you can do with plank. It's a really great exercise, and I would highly recommend you using it and building it into your daily practice because it will also help you with other poses. For example, such as Warrior 2 actually uses a lot of core strength as well, and doing plank on a regular basis and practicing that will really help you engage your core. And engaging the core also protects your lower back, which is very important. So if you're used to engaging your core, you will know the feeling. So you will be able to protect your lower back during a yoga practice in any kind of different pose that you may be doing. So my suggestion would be to build in plank into your yoga practice. Make sure that you can sustain it for a little while, and you can even challenge yourself by holding it for longer and longer periods of time. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope I was able to address some of the concerns or questions you may have had about plank pose. Stay tuned for more videos like this coming up. See you later!